Hello all and welcome to our ZoidRush. I'm Tmzoids, your host, also known as Tony. And today we're going to go back to our roots. We're going to be talking about esports. So let's get right into it. So what am I talking about for esports? There's a lot of topics to talk about in the esports, I think, a lot of things that I wanted to address. But today we're just going to be focused on Riot and esports. Two main things. Yes, that is correct. Two main things in esports that really frustrates me. So the first thing that we're going to be talking about is patch notes, patches, implementations, and patches when it comes to LCS and to when it comes live. Now, I know we would love to see players play on the most recent patch, and I know that it would be unfair for players not to get enough adequate time for patches to be implemented and then to be played on the LCS, on the main screen there. So I understand that, I get that, and it's always a hard, tricky thing to talk about, but things have really frustrated me lately, especially with the recent LCS finals just ending up in NA and EU. I think it's something important to talk about because this happened from time and time again, and it is the patches come out like at a major time in the LCS. What do I mean by that? NA finals, EU finals, MSI, Worlds, anything that seems to be really major, a big patch or a patch that can change the meta, change your bans, your play style, how the game's played, comes out, and I don't think this would be the most adequate time to implement this patch, especially in the LCS. Now, it frustrates me because I don't think. Now, some would argue. Let's start with the arguments first. Some would argue, say, hey, well, they're pro players. They need to adjust in a manner, a timely manner. And I think 2 weeks, because some people would say 2 weeks it would be an adequate time because that's when the patch they played on the last patch, and then in 2 weeks they played on the most recent patch here on League of Legends. Now, I'm frustrated because the most recent patch is the most important games throughout the season. I just don't understand. This is mind-boggling. And yes, I know they're pro players. I know they should be adapting to the patches very quickly. They should pick up on what's bad, what's good, what is the new kind of meta and how things work. But it just seems so irritating, so frustrating that Riot takes little to no consideration for pro players to put a patch a few weeks before. Why don't just make it live when it goes live on live servers? Yes, that's a week's time, and I know, like I said earlier, that they want to give Riot, or players, I should say, players a adequate time to adjust to the patch and kind of adjust to the new meta. But at the same time, I don't think it should be you wait 4 weeks later and then all of a sudden NALCS finals are coming up and then that's when you implement the new patch. And why I bring this up in the first place is that it was mentioned many times that Immortals, which we'll talk about in a different video because I have a huge topic on them, Immortals did not adjust to the patch. They just thought they didn't take this patch seriously. The patch caught up to them, and they really had no respect for the patch and didn't adapt to the patch how it was supposed to be. Whereas people like TSM, you could say, adapt to the patch really quickly and adapt it to this new meta and this new play style. And like I said, once again, it's really frustrating that you give like 2 weeks, and this is mentioned before. Monte Cristo has brought this up in the past. I think it was when finals were coming. When I say finals, I'm talking about Worlds. You're implementing a new patch and giving people only like 4 weeks to really get ready for it, and that's not really an adequate enough time. Another thing I have a question for, which I couldn't really find the answer for, is do you do you have the opportunity to play on the last patch? And what I mean by that is that they're playing on the last patch, but do they have like tournament mode is still implemented on the last patch, like the patch that's not live, like the previous patch? Is that when they do scrims? Are they still practicing on the last patch, or are they practicing on the new patch? And I just give a lot of credit to players if they're playing on the new patch constantly in tournament mode and scrims and everything else. I really do give them a lot of credit and for keeping up with what's new, but still keeping in the back of their mind, oh, this was last patch, so we need to stay in this mind focus and what's strong and how to play those champions. So that was the first thing. Patches really irritating, really frustrating for me. Just either update them live when they go live on the live servers, or wait until after a major event goes through. Like, why would you put a new patch in for NALCS? Like, right there. This is your main gameplay, and yes, you're gonna argue they're professional players, like I said, but 2 weeks, is that enough time to really adjust and adapt to all the new different playstyles, the new champions, what's to ban, what's to pick, and you have to keep in mind who you're going to scrim. So if everybody wants to scrim Immortals, because let's just say they're the best team in LCS, they scrim, and they only get a certain amount of time for scrimming. Um, that doesn't you don't guarantee all the bans that you want to use against Immortals. That doesn't guarantee you what champions Immortals is going to pick now because the meta's changed. I just think it's really frustrating, really irritating that um, Riot does this, especially like I said, major events like LCS finals or Worlds. So the second frustrating thing that has come up from this finals, and it blows my mind that this is not a thing, and why this isn't already implemented for esports, especially in LCS, specifically for LCS, so EU and NA, is sound booths. What are you doing, Riot? Holy shit, how many splits of LCS have we had so far? How many seasons of LCS have we had so far? And you can't give us sound boosts. You give us the little headsets, noise canceling headsets, and say, well, they can't hear the crowd. Well, that's been proven all disproven and thrown away because of the simple fact that Aframu and, of course, CLG was saying, hey, I can't hear you. I was wondering why you're screaming. And there's a video up. I'll link it down below if I can find it. But hey, I can't hear you. Just imagine in big team fights, I can't hear you. And it was just really frustrating. Like, why does Ryan put a disadvantage for their teams? Like, these are professional teams. You want to play them at the best ability that you can. And I'm not saying that one team lost or another team won because the noise level and the crowd was just too loud and they couldn't concentrate or hear, but it really affects communication. And I just find it funny that Riot talks about communication and throws it all the time at us that communication's key for winning this game. Communication's key. Positive communication, of course. You want to communicate with your thing. That's why we have the pings. That's why you have the on my way, danger, enemy missing. That's why we have those pings because hey, communication, right? Communication typing, headset. That's why teams communicate. That's why the coaches can hear in the comms of when they're playing, they can hear the players giving commands, not giving commands, but telling them what to do, the leaders or shot callers or what you want to call them, of what to do, when to go, how far to go, back off, this, that. These are important key elements of the game. And the fact that Riot just does not spend, it's two teams. It's not like you have to buy a huge booth for everybody. It's five people in a little desk, and then you put a booth around them and it works for every team. It's not like you get anything wrong. Like nothing blocks it. Like there doesn't need to be sponsors or ads on these booths. No, it's a clear, plain white glass in front of you, around you. You can still see the players, so you can see everything that's going on. You're still connected to them through their comm wise, so you can hear everything they're talking about, what they're discussing, so you know they're not cheating. And it just blows my mind that we don't have these for NA and EU LCS, especially when it comes to finals. Like, why do this? It's just very frustrating, especially when LCK, which a lot of people argue LCK is their own little brand, which it is. They have their own little rules and brand and corporation. They already have that. So in Korea, they already have your sound booths. Everything's fine. It's not like anything's affected from this. You still see high quality gameplay. The people in the scene, or the people that are in the seats, I should say, still get to see their players playing. They still get to see the fancy lights that sit in front of the desk and the name and everything else. And you could put things on the sound booth if you really wanted to make it even more fancier and more cool and just more attractive. Now, your argument might be, oh, well, it would be less seating. If we have sound booths, you have to have a certain amount of space and in between teams, and you have to block this off. It's very complicated, and some things don't allow us to do that. Well, then don't pick those venues. Don't pick those venues that, hey, there's not enough seating in the first place. We can't really work a booth in here. That seems like an invalid argument anyway, but if that is the case, don't pick those venues. Also, yes, it might limit its spacing and might limit the people that are in LCS that can watch the LCS live. But I rather have quality gameplay to make sure everything was at the top notch. Like everything was heard, everything was crisp, clear, and they're playing at the best level, compared to a few more fans cheering and shouting that, oh, let's go TSM or let's go CLG. It just really blows my mind. And the fact that they haven't implemented this, especially when we have other esports, venues doing this, such as CS:GO, IIRC, like even not big names that a lot of people watch. They have booths. They go in the booth. It's just something to reduce the sound so they can actually hear the players. They can communicate better, and of course, like the coach, the fact that the coach was on here and was like, "I can't hear you guys," and then he turns around and says, "Wow, that really makes sense why you're yelling now." While I was out in the other room listening to your comms. Like, what the heck? It just, right. Is it, I know you have enough money for this. Like, take some money. I'll take the pay cut. Hell, I'll pay an extra $5 on my ticket if I go to LCS for you to pay for the one-time sound booth that you have to set up every time. It's really not hard. It's not really frustrating. It's just really frustrating to see that we're still having this conversation, especially how many splits and how big League of Legends has grown. Um, it just blows my mind. Hopefully we'll have them for finals. If we don't have them for finals, I'm sure I'll make another video about this. So two main things that I want to see fixed or kind of change in the esports or LCS scene. Patch implementation, that's the first one. You know, implement it when it goes live or wait till after a major event or major thing goes down, such as NA and EU LCS finals. Wait till after. Like, maybe if the patch wasn't implemented, this is a question that I have for the viewers. If the patch wasn't implemented and you kept on the same patch and kept on the same gameplay that they were playing on throughout the NALCS or EULCS, do you think Immortals would have done better? Do you think other teams such as Fnatic would have done better if the patches haven't changed and were implemented 2 weeks prior to these major events happening? So that's a question for you guys. And two, as I was just talking about not too long ago, sound booths. For the love of God, Riot, just just build them, just make them. I know they're probably expensive. They don't really need to be that tall. They just need to be tall enough, 6 feet. Enough for a normal person to fit in and out of. Make sure all the wires are good. It doesn't mean that, you could put the back, put little holes if you need to. And yeah, those are the two main things that I would love to see fixed or changed in the esports scene. And once again, if you enjoyed this video, click a thumbs up. If you dislike this video, thumbs it down. Comment in the section of how I don't talk well or mumble. I always love constructive criticism. So I would love to see your comments and thoughts about these two ideas also. And once again, if you're new to this channel, make sure you click that subscribe button down below on the channel, or you can click the fancy thing that pops up that says subscribe after the screen. I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye, guys.